For this video, we'll discuss the potential power Luke could possess in Episode 8 and how he will choose to use that power. Also, how his abilities could have advanced past after what we saw in Return of the Jedi. To begin, I'd like to discuss the old EU. George Lucas has said on many occasions that Luke was the most powerful Jedi to have ever lived, and was able to become what his father never could, reaching his full potential and manipulating the Force like no other had before him. In the old EU, Luke dueled with the resurrected Darth Sidious, someone who I personally consider to be one of the most powerful Sith Lords and Star Wars characters ever, and beat him seemingly heavy-handedly. In the EU, Luke also demonstrated being able to become one with the Force for a time, and his abilities drastically increased. It was said that in this state, Luke appeared to be wielding 30 lightsabers simultaneously with relative ease. To put things lightly, Luke became possibly more powerful than any Sith or Jedi in the old continuity. All of this, however, cannot be used as a reference for Luke's abilities in the current continuity, since all the stories where Luke demonstrated these feats are no longer canon. From Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens, 30 years have passed, which has given Luke more than enough time to master many more abilities and strengthen his connection with the Force, so let's discuss that. In order to do that, we briefly need to discuss Luke's abilities and duel with Vader on the second Death Star, and talk about his capabilities the last we saw him in a heated duel. Luke's fight with Vader was akin to a Jedi Padawan completing their trials and becoming a Jedi Knight. At the end of the duel, Luke proclaimed he was a Jedi like his father before him. This, at least for me, is the moment Luke became a true Jedi Knight, but this was not yet the point where he had become a master. If we take a look back in the original trilogy, Luke's accomplishments up to Return of the Jedi are absolutely astounding. Most Jedi are brought to the Order at an extremely young age. In fact, an 8-year-old Anakin was even considered too old to begin training by the majority of the Jedi Council at the time. Luke was 17 when he first began his basic Jedi training, and excelled astronomically to the point in Return of the Jedi. If Luke continued his training at this rate, he would have become a very powerful Jedi Master indeed. Luke did have two of the most skilled and knowledgeable Jedi Masters of all time backing him and training him, but his progress still should not be understated in the slightest. It is important to talk about how Luke perceives this great power. I see Luke's view of power in Episode 8 most likely being similar to Yoda's. He is most likely extraordinarily powerful and may have access to some abilities we haven't even yet witnessed. On a small side note, this could explain why Kylo was able to stop the blaster bolt in The Force Awakens. It may have been a new ability he learned from Luke's training that Jedi from the past were less skilled in. I believe Luke in Episode 8 may be the most powerful individual in all of Star Wars, but due to his suffering he has suffered and had to endure over his long life, he feels no need or desire to demonstrate his vast abilities in a combative scenario. Luke's self-imposed exile may have been a way to separate himself from the suffering and chaos he experienced in his lifetime, both fighting against the Empire and Vader, and then enduring the betrayal of his nephew and death of all his students and endeavors he strived so hard for. All of this is not to say Luke will not be involved in any battles in Episode 8 or 9. I'm just suggesting he may have a particular disdain for it, and now, after witnessing so much death and hardship, has attempted to remove himself from the conflicts entirely. Luke's capabilities in the Force will be an astounding thing to witness, and I assume his skill with the blade hasn't diminished much either. In fact, I assume he has excelled way past his demonstrations in Return of the Jedi. The most important thing for me is discovering how Luke's abilities match up to that of Snoke, since they respectively represent the masters of the light and the dark in the galaxy. We must also discuss the possibility that Luke could have used his exile to train himself in the Force and extend his connection with it even further. Luke may know something about the current conflict in the galaxy that we do not yet know. We are aware that Snoke actually fears Luke a great deal and sees that his death would be the final push that the First Order would need to claim the galaxy for their own. There is the theory that Luke purposefully left pieces of his destination both with Lorsan Tekka on Jakku and within the memory of R2-D2, and that he believed that when the time for him to return came, he would be found and re-implemented into the battle with the First Order and become the key in winning the war. I assume Luke's role in the new films will be more of a mentor figure rather than a warrior, similar to Obi-Wan in A New Hope. I do, however, look forward to learning more about Luke's abilities and mental state overall, and how they have progressed. How powerful do you think Luke Skywalker is, and how do you think his abilities have progressed past the time of Return of the Jedi? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.